everybody. Thank you for coming. Appreciate you all coming out. And every time we go to the school district to talk about these issues, it appears it's a great day like this. Had a really nice chance to have a conversation with Tony Danza. Really happy to have him with us today, and I'm so glad all of you guys have joined us. You know, the school district of Philadelphia is in the news a lot lately, from violence to schools closing. There is a lot that has to be done with this school district, and Philadelphia is one of 10 school districts right now in Pennsylvania that potentially could fail, go bankrupt, and that is going to be a huge problem. And I don't think it's overstating the fact that if we continue to go down this road where Philadelphia has these huge deficits, the SRC can't seem to find the answers, it's not overstating it to say that if the district goes under, that many of these public school students here in Philadelphia are going to have to find a public education option someplace, whether it be in Bucks County, in Montgomery, in Chester. So that could create all kinds of huge problems. And I don't think that we're focusing on how to solve the problem right now. The only way to describe, the last time I'm trying to hold on to this too, the breeze coming. The only way I can describe the last 2 years in our school district is one word: turmoil. Absolute turmoil. Last year, many of our public schools saw cuts in funding, curriculum, staff cuts, and higher property taxes due to these huge state funding cuts. Here in Philadelphia, taxpayers and students lost over 141 nurses. You're going to hear about that in a second. Librarians, aides, and hundreds of teachers. The budget acts also fell on programs and extracurricular activity. And property taxes were increased to try and avert many cuts. I think the SRC, and I've said this before, could have handled the situation better, a lot better. And I think taxpayers should have a bigger say in how their districts operate. And that's why I've introduced Senate Bill 1210 to replace the SRC with an elected school board comprised of 9 members elected by the citizens of Philadelphia and accountable to the citizens of Philadelphia. But whether we have an elected school board or the SRC or some combination, our school districts are once again facing painful choices that are most certainly going to hurt students and teachers. Right now, the school district of Philadelphia faces a $71 million budget gap that they must fill by June 30th. District officials have already said that they're about halfway there, and the gap is now $39 million. In addition to the cuts the district has already made, the schools almost closed their buildings on evenings and weekends to recreation groups and athletic associations, shutting out the community from buildings that they had paid for themselves. Do you get this, folks? The communities had to pay in advance to get these buildings. The school district decides they're going to close them. It's out of whack. The school district, and as I've mentioned, many districts around the state are having to make these tough choices of where to cut. But to add insult to injury, the governor has delivered a budget address that slashes education again. Specifically, Philadelphia public schools face another $21 million in cuts if this budget is approved in its current form. And I can tell you from being in Harrisburg, it will probably be approved pretty close to what's on the board now. This governor is fixated on ideology and block grants that he actually believes will help schools by making cuts. With a sleight of hand, he has simply shifted funds around to make it seem like schools receive the funding boost. But we know better. There's nothing more. This is nothing more than an optical illusion. And here's the truth, ladies and gentlemen. The governor's budget plan calls for eliminating the $100 million accountability block grant program. That's a program that many districts use to fund full-day kindergarten and combine basic education, social security, and student transportation money into one block grant. It basically helps school districts to maximize the amount of money they have to provide education, and mostly early education. So that's right, everybody. The governor believes that he can help our schools by cutting proven education programs like full-day kindergarten and smaller class sizes and tutoring. Am I the only one who doesn't get it? The school district of Philadelphia is set to lose $21 million in state funding under Governor Corbett's plan. Since Governor Corbett has taken office, Philadelphia public schools have lost $310 million in basic education, accountability block grants, charter school reimbursements, and many other public school programs. Larger classrooms, fewer programs and services, fewer teachers, less early education. That's the Tom Corbett plan. And who suffers? Certainly not the fat cat corporations who leap through the Delaware loophole to avoid paying taxes. And as we've seen recently, certainly not the big energy companies who basically got a walk on the Marcellus Shale. The true victims of the governor's agenda, and you're going to hear about this more from these folks and from Tony Danza, are the kids. They are the victims. We continue to take away, to deny, to reduce. How can we expect them to succeed? Simply to even graduate. We can't just come up with mindless ideologies and austere, mindless cuts. We've got to have a vision. We've got to find a way to actually solve the problem. Once again, the middle class and the lower class families are the ones who are the direct targets of these budget cuts, while wealthy corporations continue to profit. So we're here today because, ladies and gentlemen, we've had enough. We need to stop siphoning the funds. We need to put the end of the turmoil that has turned the school district of Philadelphia and many school districts into a mess that keeps getting worse. We have to get on the road to solve the problem. We have several special guests here. And particularly someone who I've referred to has seen firsthand the terrible impact of budget cuts and what's going on with student morale in the schools. Tony Danza has been great over the years. Many of us are his fans, have watched him. He's a triple threat. He can act, he can dance, he can sing. We've seen him on stage. He's a tough guy. He's a former prize fighter. He's from Brooklyn, but his mentality is a lot like Philadelphian. And as I say, although he's wowed audiences on stage and screen, I think the place where he's been most inspiring is in front of the classroom, teaching our kids. And he's got a very unique approach, and he's going to tell us all about it. So we're so glad to have Tony Danza here. Tony, I just met you, but I consider you a friend already because we're right on the same page. Appreciate you being here. Why don't you tell us your experience? Tony Danza, everybody.
Thank you, Senator Stack. Hello, everybody. I don't know the politics of it. I don't know what's going on. I just know what's happening in the front lines. I spent a year teaching at Northeast High, and I've been in the school this year a lot, and we're putting on a fundraiser tonight. We're doing a teacher versus student talent show tonight at the school in an attempt to raise some money. I mean, you know about the nurses. At Northeast, we lost shop teachers, art teachers, and it sends a message to the kids that they really don't matter. I mean, you know, we pay all this lip service, and the kids, by the way, what I saw was the kids, it's very hard to convince them that this is important. This whole thing is important in the first place, between the culture and that undermines it every day, and the signals they get, and this message that their favorite teacher or the thing that they really liked about school, the thing that got them to go to school. I never went to school because of the math. I went because of the art programs. So I'm just trying to do what I can to tell the kids that we do care and raise some money and hopefully mitigate some of the cuts that have been made. I do think that if we really had our priorities right, you know, if we admit to 1 million kids dropping out of school every year, and don't get me wrong, I'm a big believer in the fact that the kids also have to take responsibility. They have to take part in their own education. That was one of the things that I tried to press on them. But In the meantime, if you're losing 1 million kids, we admit to dropping out 1 million kids a year. If you extrapolate that to 30 years, you have 30 million uneducated, unhappy adults. It's not like they can get a job anymore. It's not like when I was a kid, you could quit school at 16 and go get a job and have a middle-class life, but you can't do that anymore. And so we need to send the right message to them, and that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm happy to be here with Senator Stack, who I totally agree with. So thank you very much.